South East Radio's morning mix.
Alan Corcoran.
Chat, news and your views.
I'm joined in the studio by the new President of Wexford Chamber, Karl Fitzpatrick. Good morning to you, Karl.
Good morning, Alan.
Now, Karl, we are well aware of the fact that you're also working here in South East Radio as a broadcaster, but today we're going to focus very much on your role with the Chamber of Commerce. You've taken on this prestigious role on the background of your own business, which is what? Just remind us.
My core business is Chevron Training and Recruitment, where we employ 21 staff on Ann Street. We deliver online training and we provide recruitment services also.
You have a vision for this role as President, which we'll go through in a second. What do you see as the main role of President before we even look at the vision of the areas that you're going to look at?
The main role of President is to represent our members with regard to any lobbying that needs to be done, whether it be of a local, regional or national level through Chambers Ireland. And then secondly, to look at the business environment here in Wexford and to improve it for our members.
So you have 4 key points. What are those 4 points?
Well, the first key point is access to finance. Over the last number of months, many of our members continue to tell us that they're finding it difficult to access finance. Now, they're going to the pillar banks, and the pillar banks in most cases are approving loans. But a lot of the time, the conditions attached to those loans are just very prohibitive. So, for instance, I spoke to a business owner only in the last number of days, and they were told that if they wanted a loan of €50,000, well, they'd have to have security to back that up. So either they'd hand over the deeds of a property, or alternatively, they'd have to lodge that €50,000 up front in order to get it. Now, I suppose what we've done in the Chamber over the last number of weeks is we've done lots of research in relation to this area, and we have identified a brand new organisation called the Independent Finance Providers of Ireland, and they represent 25 different independent finance providers today. Now, companies that we've never heard of before, Alan, lots of companies that have come in from the UK market that saw a niche opportunity here to lend. They're very specialist lenders in most cases. So, for instance, some of them, they only lend through term loans. Others only lend on commercial vehicles. Others only lend through invoice discounting. But what it does is it opens up the entire market for SMEs to get access to funds again, because these companies, they charge slightly higher interest rates than our pillar banks would, but they have more of an appetite for risk. So what our plan is in that respect is over the coming months, we're going to develop a comprehensive guide to finance for SMEs that will give a listing of every one of these companies within it, and we're going to make that available to all businesses in Wexford.
Right.
The second element of that is we're going to look at holding a finance expo if the demand is there for it. And again, we're going to go back out to the accountancy firms with this idea. What that event would look like is we would take a room in a hotel for a day, and we would have all of the representatives from the pillar banks and from all of the other sources of finance represented on the day also.
Do you think that by bringing in these other finance companies you're talking about, it may release the purse strings a bit more on those pillar banks you speak about?
I'm absolutely confident.
Because if they see competition in the market, they may relax a little bit.
I think that's going to happen, but there's nothing like competition to open a market up in any respect.
In a few moments' time, we'll be joined by Neil Hughes, who is actually listening into this conversation as we speak, because we're talking to the new President of Wexford Chamber, Karl Fitzpatrick. Karl, we've looked already where you stand as the new President of the Chamber. You're talking about access to finance, whereby you're going to get the pillar banks and these other finance houses, try and get them all into the one room. Let's talk about empty premises. How many empty premises are in County Wexford as we speak?
I checked Daft this morning before I came in, Alan, and in Wexford Town there's over 100 empty commercial premises. Now, what I mean by empty commercial premises is industrial, office and retail. So our plan in the Chamber in terms of how we're going to tackle that is we're going to meet with auctioneers in the town over the coming weeks. We're going to profile each of those 100 properties. We're going to identify the ideal type of tenant that needs to go into those. And then from there we're going to reach out both to the other chambers of commerce right across the country, which there are 62, and also to industry bodies with a view to promoting those properties to their members. Let me give you one example of that. The Irish Franchise Association represents 25 franchise concepts in Ireland. Only 6 of those operate in the county of Wexford. So there's 19 opportunities to bring their members to Wexford with a view to occupying premises that are empty.
I've spoken to Tom Enright on occasions about hubs, and you're nicely poised now to tell me about these hubs, IT hubs or pharmaceutical hubs or some form of a hub. A hub being that you get a group of like-minded companies in the one area. I think of the success of Scurry, I think of the success of Dundeal.ie. How can we get more of this type of company into the community? Yeah, well, that's called clustering is the term that's put on it. And I know Tom Enright's plan through Wexford County Council is that he wants to turn Wexford Town into a financial services hub. His plan for Gorey is an IT hub, and they're currently developing an innovation centre out in Gorey. And then for Enniscorthy and New Ross, his plan is to build industrial units and to bring industrial type businesses into those, which I think is a very, very welcome move. We've proven already that we have the skill set here locally in order to fulfil
those roles.
What are your targets initially? What do you honestly think you can achieve? Filling those empty units, you talk about 100 of them. How many do you think you could fill within the first year?
I think that somewhere between 10 and 15
would be a realistic target. The teeth. Does Wexford Chamber actually have real teeth? Does it actually bring real change? Or is it there for people to become part of it, almost like a group thinking with no teeth? Or does it actually carry real clout?
Well, I think instead of having teeth, it's all about working in collaboration, Alan. We certainly don't want to take a bite out of anyone in the Chamber. Our plan with the Chamber really, and our goal with the Chamber, is to bring collaboration together. And to bring that collaboration together between businesses, so our members and the broader business community, and also to lobby on their behalf with a view to making change happen at a local authority level. We enjoy a very, very positive relationship with Wexford County Council, and we hope that that will continue as well into the future.
There's another aspect of this, helping businesses, isn't that right?
Helping existing businesses
to prosper, develop.
Yeah, correct. So if we look at two main areas within Wexford itself, are retail and service-based businesses. And I do feel, certainly looking out the window here today from the studio, rain is sweeping the streets. We need to weatherproof retailers, and we also need to future-proof them. And I think how we're going to achieve that is by helping them online. So I was just looking at some stats up there yesterday in advance of the interview, and I was saying that Amazon have 300 million users. eBay have over 150 million users. And there's new sites and new apps being developed all the time, which include Etsy for arts and crafts related businesses and Depop for fashion related businesses, all of which are growing at a phenomenal pace. And they're platforms that our retailers here in Wexford need to be registered on so they can add that further income stream and channel to their own businesses. So our plan in that respect is to work with Wexford Chamber Skillnet with a view to holding workshops where we bring retailers in and they bring their laptop or their tablet with them, and we actually get them registered and set up shops on those particular platforms on the day of the workshop itself, and they can see real growth in their business almost immediately. We'll then bring them back for frequent updates in relation to that to help them optimise their particular store on Amazon and eBay and elsewhere.
So you're going to be a doer?
That's the plan. Now, in relation to service-based businesses, just looking at that platform, eTenders is the government procurement website. There's 8.5 billion euros spent through that site each year by the government. And there's a lot of Wexford businesses that have absolutely no presence on it. And what we need to do over the next 12 months, again, is hold a number of workshops with a view to getting service-based businesses in so that we can get them registered on that particular platform so that when they go back to the office the following morning, they can see real live contracts that they can tender for. Now, for the smaller businesses that feel that, well, is that really relevant to me? I'm turning over 1 or 2 or 300,000 euros a year. I might be precluded from some of these tenders. What we will do in that respect is we will help those businesses cluster so that they can add their own turnover together so they can meet the requirements in order to tender for this work in the first place.
Broadband, and I want to bring Neil Hughes, who's waiting patiently to talk to us. Neil Hughes from Hughes Blake Chartered Accountant, current Wexford Businessman of the Year because he won the Chamber Award. Broadband, what's the problem? How will it improve things?
Well, broadband, there's good news because the ESB have entered into a joint venture with Vodafone, and they have a budget of 450 million euros that they're investing in broadband through 50 towns right across the country. Now, luckily, Wexford is one of those lucky towns, and we've been given a commitment that we'll have high-speed broadband throughout Wexford Town by December next.
If you have clout, why don't you put pressure on the IDA for real jobs? That's a comment in from John.
I think the big problem that we have currently in attracting large employers to Wexford from a foreign direct investment perspective is we don't have buildings suitable for them. Any of the foreign direct investment companies are looking for high-tech buildings. They're looking for buildings with A ratings. They're looking for buildings that are open plan in nice modern environments. We don't have them currently, and that's the reason that Tom Enright is taking the initiative himself through the Wexford County Council to actually purchase land and put buildings on it. We have the skills on the ground here, but we don't have the property solutions, but we will have over the next 2 years. Wexford Chamber is working very closely with Wexford County Council to make this happen.
When did the Chamber become the town landlord? This guy, speaking about you, Karl, said they're looking for suitable tenants to fill empty shops. Are you setting yourself up as town landlord?
I think what we're doing is we're taking a proactive approach. We're looking around the town and we're seeing empty buildings. We're not seeing an awful lot of inquiries coming into the auctioneers in relation to some of these. And what we need to do is we need to work collaboratively with the auctioneers and the landlords with a view to filling empty properties. Because, Alan, if we do that, number one, we'll create jobs, and number two, we'll bring more of a spend into the town.
Stay with me, everybody. Stay with me, because Neil Hughes has been listening, the current Businessman of the Year. Good morning to you, Neil.
Good morning, Alan.
Karl Fitzpatrick, the brand new President of Wexford Chamber. Would you like to say anything to him?
Yeah, good morning, Karl. How are you?
Morning, Neil.
Yeah, Alan, all I'd really like to say is to wish Karl the best of luck. Karl is a very clued in guy, Alan. He knows what he's talking about. He's really got his finger on the pulse there, and I would agree with everything that Karl has said there. They're all really good sort of micro things that the Chamber can be working on. The macro picture is what is going to make things a lot easier for Karl and for everybody in the Chamber.
Yeah, well, let's not assume everybody knows what micro and macro is, so explain, what's the difference?
Well, I mean, we have, unfortunately, in the southeast, when the national unemployment rate was topping out at 15.2%, we were closer to 20%. So, we can deal with a lot of issues kind of, by nudging things in the right direction, like Karl is talking about. But really, the whole macro picture, the wider picture across the country of things getting better, that's really going to help the efforts of the Chamber next year. And I think certainly the people we're talking to on the ground, their view is that 2016 is going to be a lot better than 2014 and 2015 were. And that is really going to help all of those initiatives that Karl is talking about. It's going to be, I suppose, a tailwind for what the Chamber activities are. So I think we have to get in behind what Karl is doing and what the rest of the people in the Chamber are doing. Karl has the energy of youth as well, Alan, which is very important. And I think it's really for a young guy like Karl is, I think it's a superb achievement to have gotten to the position he's in. So Karl, well done.
Southeast Radio's morning mix.
Alan Corcoran.
Chat, news and your views.